Hello and welcome to IBTimes UK. This week we met with intelligence consultant David Otto to discuss how the crisis in Syria has further worsened following the military intervention of Russia, which said it aims to tackle the Islamic State and other Islamist terror groups. According to Otto, a coalition backing the rebels on one side and the other supporting the regime of President Bashar al-Assad on the other make it difficult to distinguish between so-called freedom fighters and terrorists, while the current scenario suggests that a solution to the conflict is far from being achieved.
Assad believes that the Syrian government has the right to defend its territory against rebels that they define as terrorists. On the other hand, the Americans, and the Americans-led coalition, which also comprises of countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, believe that there are rebels within that the Assad regime should be classified as a regime that should not be in power, and therefore should be taken out of power because they believe that they are terrorizing the population, which has led to mass immigration of a lot of people. So there is a very, very big problem now in terms of who is considered to be a terrorist. The Russians consider the rebel forces as terrorists. They consider the ISIL as terrorists. But the Americans, consider the CIA-trained groups within the Syrian government as freedom fighters, as people that are fighting for their freedom. So you have this old dichotomy of one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. So this scenario is a very, very conflicting scenario because it's now leading to a situation whereby you have superpowers kind of exchanging or playing with their toys, to expose certain weaknesses within the understanding that existed prior to this situation. So it's getting worse, it's not getting better, because what you see now is the fact that America is not happy with the involvement of Russia. Russia is also not happy with the fact that there shouldn't be a solution without the inclusion of the Syrian government, without the inclusion of Assad. America wants a solution without the inclusion of Assad. So there's that conflict scenario going on in Syria and Iraq at the moment, which is very, very difficult.
The US, which backs the Free Syrian Army, accused Russia of carrying out 90% of its airstrikes against non-ISIS targets, including opposition groups that fight for a better future in Syria. The US also claimed that Russian interference will benefit the Assad regime. Moscow denied the claims and accused the US-led coalition of pretending to bomb ISIS. According to Otto, the current scenario will allow ISIS to take advantage of the crisis and gain more power.
What you have now is the fact that the main enemy, which used to be ISIL, has now been somehow left to prosper within Iraq and Syria, because the concentration on Russia is not more on ISIL. Russia concentrates its military strikes on the Syrian rebels. They believe they're rebels, they believe they're terrorists against the Syrian regime. America concentrates on ISIL and targets that will not assist the Syrian regime to fight against the rebels. The war that could have been ended, or the civil war that could have been ended, that started in 2011 just as a protest, has escalated into something that might maybe, perhaps, if not well controlled, could lead to a third world war, because it has all the remnants of coalitions getting on one side and other coalitions getting on the other side.